Greetings, my name is Jonathan Literal, and today I'll be introducing you to my grandfather, Dr. Bob Literal. He was a member of Wycliffe Bible Translators and SIL, which is the Summer Institute of Linguistics, from 1962 to 2019. Now, to let you know what those are a little bit, the Wycliffe Bible Translators shares the vision for Bible translation with Christians and develops resources needed to see the task completed. And working hand in hand with that, the Summer Institute of Linguistics, or SIL, provides academic training and carries out the language work. So, Grandpa, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with Wycliffe and SIL and how you first got involved and some of the work that you did over the years.
Okay, I actually learned about SIL first as a student at Wheaton College, and I was chosen to go to Costa Rica. And when I was there, I met a Wheaton grad who graduated not too long after the war, and he introduced, and I saw what he was doing, and he was way out there in the middle of nowhere in Costa Rica, and he was doing Bible translation. And I thought God wanted me working with people, and I didn't know whether it was going to be missions or pastorate, so I went down there. And when I went there, I just decided that was it. And I thought, okay, that's what the Lord wants me to do. And so when I went back to Wheaton, I changed my major from chemistry to Bible. I was already done that. And ended up with a bachelor's in Bible. And then I went on to, someone said, oh, you've got to get linguistic training. So I went to SIL to get the linguistic training. And I loved linguistics. I've been in science, and I'm getting my science back, because linguistics is basically the science of language.
Right. And SIL now is actually currently involved in 1,660 active language projects, representing 1.07 billion people in 162 countries around the world. So now, would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the work that you did when you were stationed in Papua New Guinea for SIL?
Well, the first thing is you've got to learn the language. And Papua New Guinea, by the way, has more languages than any place else in the world. It has 830. And we went into one of those, and the Angkor had their first contact with civilization was 8 years before we got there. Anyway, we had to go in, and we wanted to go to a place that didn't have a church, so we chose there were hundreds of them, and so we chose the Angkor. Went in and lived with them for 5 years, 1 5-year term, and started learning the language, learning the culture, and became a part of them. And during that time, they got to the place that people started calling us Father, Mother, Abe. Asar, and now they call me Grandpa. Atu. We learned the faithfulness of the Lord because we were a lot of sickness. 2 children were born. We were in the hospital 5 times in 5 years. I had herniated disc and other things, but we found out the Lord was faithful. And then after that, we didn't have any sicknesses until Shirley was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in '92.
How long was it before you had your first Christian in the village?
First Christian was Wycliffe, and we'd been there 5 years, and he became a Christian December the 8th, 1968. I think, 4 years. And that was one. And we came home, and a lot of people, how many Christians? 1. And a lot of people, you're in 5 years and only that many. But if you look at it, we had to learn language, and then he was changing his whole worldview, and he really understood. He was the first Christian, and then in the next term there was the church started. He was the first pastor, and then by the time we came home after the first term, there was almost churches in all the 5 villages.
Yeah. And so I know in your Bible translation work, you guys had to create an alphabet for them because they didn't have a writing system at the time.
No, that's one of the things you do in the SIL training, the linguistic training, is you learn how to develop an alphabet.
And so How long was it until you started actually doing translation work from the Greek into Ongor?
Well, we started off probably just doing a few things. Like I know we worked some few verses and some things from First John, which is fairly easy to translate.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do a whole lot of translation the first 5 years, but we had, I think, a good part of First John and things like that. As you're doing Bible translation, you just can't go and preach and do it through an interpreter. So we spent the time learning the language, and during that time, we developed a relationship with the people. And so the gospel was sort of given a little bit of a time as they were able to understand it. Yeah, he's quite.
So how many years did it take you to fully translate the New Testament? And if you could, would you read your favorite passage from the translated New Testament?
Well, it actually took us over 30 years. Usually, we had a lot of health problems, things like that, but it was 30-some years. And anyway, one of the passages, I'll read it to you. This is one of my first favorites, is Romans 12, 1 and 2, and I'll read it in just the first verse. Pandam mama, Garnamaya Hupamubehu Wando, Arikara, Ranambo, Pandamwani, Rosagambo Hupaganduranda. Sagavati, Yangara, Nangwambo, Rase, Manik, Garanda, Huban, say, Asagavio, no. Asu Aganda, Yangaranda, Nanambo, Asu Godai, Nanambo, Kogava, Wandamui. Say, Randagandaga, Anambo, what Poranda, Garanda, Hubanamo, Galambo, Hubanamo, Davando.
So you spent 53 years of your life, which is well over half in Papua New Guinea, and in a way being a living sacrifice for the Lord in that service. So what would be your greatest privilege of service for Wycliffe and SIL?
Well, I think looking at it from a human viewpoint, we had the privilege of, we took the gospel to them, and we were able to live with them and help them to come out of being animals, believing in spirits and that sort of thing, to come to the gospel. And we had a lot of community development perspective on it, not just go and give them the Bible, but actually work with them so that they became Christian, became involved, and then they developed themselves. The church developed itself, and it wasn't us pushing behind them, it was the growth from them. Okay, one of my another favorite verse, I guess, is 1 Thessalonians 2:19. Paul says, "What is my hope? What is my joy? What's my crown of rejoicing? Are not you in his presence at his coming?" And I think that is the greatest privilege we had. In Revelations 5:9, it says there's going to be people there from every tongue and tribe and people and nation. And we had the privilege of involving one of those people. Mm-hmm. That's the greatest privilege.
If you'd like to know more about either Wycliffe or SIL and are interested in either of these organizations, you can go to either www.sil.org or www.wycliffe, which is WYCLIFF